Hey everybody, it's Scotty from Scotty's Record Shop with one of at least a couple of videos I'm going to be doing in the next, hopefully, few days. This one I'll call January Vinyl Finds because it's just a bunch of stuff, a bunch of records and a CD. But I did find some Elvis. I'm waiting for like a couple things to come that haven't gotten here yet. Not a huge stack, but like 10, 11, whatever Elvis albums. I want to do those separately. And I was looking through some of my boxes of stuff that hasn't been filed yet, and I noticed a big stack, not a huge stack, but a stack of rare earth. And I don't think I showed any of that. I found that a while ago, actually. So I may do a video of just like 6 or 7 rare earth albums, whatever it is, whatever. But for right now, I'm going to show you, start off with three Australian bands that never made it here in America, and they should have, all three of them. Although the first one is a CD, the band Zoot. I'd love to find some Zoot on vinyl, but as of now, this is in the EMI Australia CD that was issued in 1995. And these guys were a really interesting band. They put out a couple of albums, a fair chunk of singles in Australia. They never made it anywhere past Australia. One of the members, a guy named Bev Bartles, was later in Little River Band when they started the most prolific era of my favorite era of Little River Band. He was a member of that band. Rick Springfield was really young in this band. This was his first really, really big break. And he added a lot. He joined the band in '69 and actually really just made the band a better band. It's weird. He really made the band heavier, and I don't know, it just was weird. So you think of Rick Springfield as, Jesse's Girl. He kind of gets picked on it by serious rock and roll fans, supposedly. But I really like Rick Springfield, and I have a bunch of his work. And when I heard this early stuff, an amazing version of Eleanor Rigby by the Beatles, very, very, very heavy. And if you hear that, you won't think of Rick Springfield in the same manner anymore. You'll have hopefully more respect for him. But Zoot, and a compilation called Zoot Walker. Okay, the next one, a group led by Billy Thorpe, who we know Billy Thorpe here in America because of the song "Children of the Sun" in '79. Great song, a great album. But he was in a band called the Aztecs in the '60s and the '70s, and they started out kind of as a British kind of, they sounded like a British kind of, I guess, pop rock band in the '60s. They did a really nice version of Poison Ivy, had a big hit in Australia with that. But in the '70s, they got really heavy and very bluesy, as evidenced by the album Live at Sunbury, Sunbury was a rock festival in Australia for a few years, and they were recorded in '72. Great album if you can find it. It wasn't released here in America. This was a promotional 45 on Rack Records, and I don't think it was ever issued commercially here in America. I think the promotional 45 was a test. It didn't go well. I love this song. Most people I know think that I'm crazy. Great one from the Aztecs. Another Australian band that never made it here. They tried. They came in '81ish and just didn't go over well here in America. But a great band called Cold Chisel, and in Australia a lot of people just refer to them as Chisel. But this was an album that came out in 1982. Circus Animals. I'm sorry. I keep wanting to say Circus Freaks. This has got a lot of great music on it. I'll show you the label. It's on WIA, Australia. This has got kind of one of their signature songs on it, Bow River. Look up the song Bow River by Cold Chisel, and you might end up becoming a fan of theirs. Who knows? Great band. They have some live recordings of them as well. I don't think anything is available here in America, but like on Amazon or something, you could find some CDs. I lucked out. I found these. It was an American seller that was selling these. I'm like, oh, this is cool, because they would have come from Australia. The shipping would have been ridiculous. Um, this is Radio Songs Best of Cold Chisel. Came out in 1985, covering the first 6 or 7 years of their career. It's got a lot of really nice stuff on it as well. Okay, now we're moving on from that Australian stuff, going to some British prog rock. I only had a couple of albums from Genesis that I was still needing, and I found them. One of them wasn't in the best of shape, but it will do for now. This one was in great shape. It's, there, get it over there, Nursery Crimes. Genesis. Nice stuff, great album. And Foxtrot, which isn't in the best of shape, but I rarely ever see this, and I grabbed it. It wasn't too expensive because it's not in mint shape or anything like that. It plays all the way through, and the cover's a little beat up, but I will find eventually a better copy. One of the last Jefferson Airplane records I was looking for. Glare isn't too bad. Great album. Changing its style quite a bit, but I saw it was a couple bucks, and I like these guys. The Best of Dr. Hook. A nice little overview of the first 8 or so years, 10 years of their career. McCartney, one of them that I didn't have. I have it on CD, but didn't have this on vinyl. The cover's a little beat up because it's an import, Russian import, really kind of chintzy. But the vinyl is great. Great covers. McCartney covering music from the 50s, stuff that he grew up listening to and learning how to play. So, a couple of Bob Dylan records. I've got all the 60s Dylan, most of the 70s now, with these two, and some of the 80s stuff. But I've never heard, I know of this album, but I've never heard it on Hard Rain. Never heard it all the way through. So eventually I'm going to get down to it and listen to that. I don't know. I've mixed reviews about this record, but I'll give it a listen. I like Dylan, so this one I have heard. I just had never owned it and liked it. I'm very glad that I found it. Dylan live at Budokan double album. And the last Steve Miller Band records that I'm looking for. I have all of the 60s and 70s and most of the 80s stuff now. Not his best work. I never see this in the wild, though. I never see this out in record stores. I see it on eBay or, Discogs or whatever. But I just sometimes it's funner waiting to find it. I've been looking for it for a few years, but it's in nice shape. Not his best work, but it filling up that collection. Now I'm getting into some dollar records. Blow through these kind of quickly. Some of them are really good, though. This was a really, really good record from Jackie DeShannon. She actually opened up from the Beatles, or for the Beatles, in '64, I believe. She was a great songwriter, great singer. A nice compilation of her 60s stuff in nice shape as well, for a buck. I have one Climax Blues Band, or had one Climax Blues Band album. The album couldn't get it right on it. I had that for years, but never had anything else by them. A good friend of mine, John Boyer, who's a member of the VC as well, doesn't make videos, but is on the Facebook page all the time, has a lot of Climax Blues Band and loves them, and I've always been going, I see them all the time, and I always overlook it, but I saw a couple of them in the dollar bin, and I picked them up. One that I picked up for a buck. And the other one that I picked up for a buck. And they weren't bad, they were good. So I'll be hunting down more from them. This guy, next guy, tried to make it on his own in the mid-'70s and didn't do very well. He ended up becoming a member of the Babies, and then from the early 80s to today, he's a keyboard player for Journey. Talking about Jonathan Cain. This was his LP, the Jonathan Cain Band, which is really not a bad album. I remember seeing these guys on American Bandstand in 1976-ish, and thought, well, these guys are pretty good. It's a good band. I wonder what'll ever happen. And I'd never heard anything from them again. And then he materialized in the Babies, like I said. So I'm kind of happy to find that for $1. It was in great shape. Not exactly a hard record to find, but not a bad record. Billy Squier, Emotion in Motion for $1, you know. This is a K-Tel record, Warner Brothers special product, K-Tel, with the help of K-Tel. So in other words, you're talking about 20 songs on one album. But it's kind of funny. I have everything by these guys, but I saw this and thought, well, I don't have this compilation. It's the group Bread. And this is The Sound of Bread. And it's a good record if you like bread, you know. The fidelity on it isn't all that hot, but anyway. A couple of Melissa Manchester records. They were cheap. They're not bad. I don't mind her. She's kind of like, hopefully doesn't offend people by me saying this, but she's kind of like the male version of Barry Manilow in some respects. I guess she was discovered by him, but on the same label. But not bad. A really good songwriter, a very good singer. This was her first, not her first album, but the first album that became popular in 1975-ish or so. And I found this one as well for $1. Some early 80s from her. This one, for some reason I looked at it, I thought, oh great, this is their first album, and it's not. And it's all right, but it was $1. The band Orleans. I'm still looking, I think I'm still looking for their first LP. I've got a handful of their records, but this was from 1980, so it still from that era when, you know, even though they weren't having hits or anything anymore, it was still an interesting record. We'll get into some oldies now to wrap this up. This is kind of funny, but it's not. It's actually pretty good. Leslie Gore. And this is the original pressing, the 70s pressings and 80s pressings of this album, Golden Hits. Only has 10 songs on it. This has 12. This was the original Mercury from 1965. Stereo in great shape. Sounds really good. The only song that isn't on that I really like from her was her last big hit. What was it? California Nights from '67. But anyway, a nice, got a ton of his stuff. Neil Diamond. This is his first greatest hits compilation, best of, and it's on Bang. It's an original pressing on the original Bang label. A lot of good stuff on there. And this one, even though I've got a couple of other compilations from these guys, this just is, I picked this up because it was $1, and it was like, my little sister Dee Dee has had this growing up, and I never see this particular compilation around, you know, so in a sense I kind of bought it for the cover or the memories, but 1976-ish this pressing was on Arista, which was where their catalog was sitting in the 70s. Yeah, best of or Monkey's Greatest Hits. Yeah, Monkey's Greatest Hits. Just memories of my childhood with this record for sure. Okay, so be on the lookout for some Elvis and possibly some Rare Earth coming from me in, you know, the next week or two, hopefully. Alrighty, as always, thank you so much for watching. Over 500 subscribers. I don't even know how many views, 60,000 or something like that. It's crazy. It's great. And I really do appreciate you guys checking out my videos. And hopefully this one didn't run too long. Like I always say, until next time, peace and love.